5 yard.
Yep, 5 yards. Talk to the lady next to you there. And see if Miss
Okay.
Bell.
Okay, I call to order our Guthrie Public Works Authority meeting, workshop. Second item on the agenda is sorry, I don't have that agenda.
Got your public work?
Yeah, I got Public Works, but not the workshop. Second item is discussion and possible action on the renewal of the contract with Waste Connections of Oklahoma for the collection and disposal of trash, solid waste, in Guthrie for a 5-year period beginning October 1 of 2023, expiring September 30th of 2028. Leroy, are you taking that?
I can either go first or Waste Connections can go first.
Okay. Why don't we have our Waste Connection folks go first?
I'm Brittany Eagleston. So I think you all have in your packets our 5-year proposed plan. Over the last several years, almost 20 years of us having the contract here, our price increases have been capped at 2%. Some years we haven't passed a price increase for whatever reason. And now we have realized how far behind we are on our costs. This year with inflation, it kind of became more apparent to us where we are with our numbers. And so what we had proposed was a 5-year rate structure spreading out that cost. We felt that that was the best way to get to the price we needed to be without just hitting year one with a big price increase. And after going over the rate structure a couple times, we spread the price increase over commercial customers as much as we could, more so than residential. In our opinion, we feel it's easier to take on a price increase as a business versus a resident who may be on a fixed income. And that's all I have. If you have any questions for me about it.
Anybody have any questions about it? No? Okay. Well, it's easy.
Mine won't be
Leroy?
quite as short. So I put on each of your desk a handout with the narrative, and then I'll go through the various handouts as I go through the narrative. And I've kind of combined my presentation on both agenda items, the renewal and the looking at our resolution to amend our rates. They kind of roll together. So initially, my conversation will be more on item 3, but then it'll come back to item 2. The revenue generated through city trash service funds the deficit revenue to maintain and operate the convenience center and provides general funding for the Guthrie Public Works Authority, just like the revenue from city water and sewer utility services funds those respective utilities and provides general funding for the Guthrie Public Works Authority operations. The first handout you will see looks like this one. Should be, if you undid your packet, it'll be the first handout.
Could be.
And it's on the convenience center is what it says in the upper left-hand corner.
Oh, they're separate. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't staple them together. Yes, sir. Got it. So Ken put this together, and if you look at, in blue is the revenue that we make at the convenience center. And then in red is the operating budget and our convenience center contract. So if you look in 2011, we had a deficit of $72,000 that we had to subsidize out of other sources for the operation convenience center. And as you go across in FY21, it was $44,000. The convenience center operation did not pay for itself. It's subsidized out of other public work funds. And so that's one of the reasons why we have to make money on the trash service is to offset these expenses. The City of Guthrie has not adjusted the trash rates charged to local residential and commercial business since September 30th, 2006. And those were adopted by resolution number 2006-19. Since October 2006, the city's trash service cost through a contract with Waste Connections has increased by 21%. So the second handout you have shows, going back to 2005, looking at residential in-town polycart rates that we paid Waste Connections was $6.89. And this shows the increase of our cost since 2005, but we've not raised our rates to recapture any of that increased cost since 2006. So our operating cost goes up, but our revenue has not. So the gap is closed. The next is more of a statement. Now that I'm close to retirement, I can be bolder, I guess. There's always a lot of rhetoric that municipal government should run more like a private enterprise. There are probably very few businesses that have not increased their cost of goods or services since 2006, while their cost has increased over time by 21%. So, you know, if people say they want us to run like a private business, if our cost goes up for materials and goods, then our cost to our customers should go up. But I found that when it comes to proposing decrease in our costs or doing away with some employee or something, that's when people crow the loudest that we ought to operate like a business. But on the flip side, when it's time for us, our cost goes up and we have to raise our rates to absorb that cost, many times those same people start cackling like hens instead of like roosters. The next handout that you will find is folded, and comparison of the 2006 trash service cost versus revenue and the FY 2022 trash service cost versus revenue. This spreadsheet does not have every category on it of users, but I believe it's sufficient to give us a clear picture of the impact of the city not raising trash rates to end users since 2006. To make comparative apples to apples for both of these scenarios, for the 2006 spreadsheet and then over on the right hand, the 2020 spreadsheet, I used our current customer base so that it's more apples to apples rather than use the customer count in 2006 and the one in 2022 so that we can compare more apples to apples. I used the same customer count that we have today. Then I took the rates from Waste Connections. I went back and pulled an invoice from 2006. And the second column is their rates for these different categories. So their hypothetical invoice for the current customer count is the third column over. And then our rate from 2006 is the fourth column. So the revenue that we would generate if you look at blue in the bottom, for residential, we would have generated $28,895 margin, or 90% markup over our invoice from Waste Connections. And we would have generated $13,000 net, or 41% over the $32,000 we would bill for Waste Connections. So we marked up residential 90%, marked up commercial 41%. Blend those two together, and it's 65% if you blend the two together. And so that 65% you'll see throughout this presentation, because if we're going to treat them similar, we would mark up residential and commercial the same amount, 65%, or you all can do any combination that you choose to do. But under this, back in 2006, when we adopted new rates compared to the charge from Waste Connections, if you analyze that, Waste Connections would have billed us, if you look at the bottom left blue, $776,000. Our revenue would have been 1.2 million. So our margin to pay for things like the service center, overhead, and other operations of Guthrie Public Works Authority would be $500,000. If you go to the other side of the equation and look at the rates on the second column under 2022 is the rates currently being charged this year by Waste Connections. So when you multiply that out on residential customers, our net income is $22,000, commercial $6,000, combined $28,000. So the markup goes for residential from 90% to 57%, and on commercial it goes from 41 to 17 because our cost is going up, but we're not increasing what we charge our customers, and then blend it together 37%. So if you annualize that out, our revenue, because we've not increased our rates, has dropped $160,000 a year. I'd be glad to stop at any point to answer questions. But clearly, by our rates charged from Waste Connections and us not adjusting our rates, the amount of money we make to operate the city has continued to decline. On resolution 2022-05, which will come up in our discussion under item 3, as I pointed out, under the city trash rate structure, the percent markup of the residential rate is higher than the percent markup for commercial rates. At previous meetings, the council has discussed at least equalizing the percent markup between the two categories. So if we go back to 2006, instead of residential being marked up 90% and commercial only marked up 41%, we would just take the invoice rate and mark them all up 65%, which means that when the increase is implemented, residential, because they're already higher, will get less of a bump than the commercial.
Is this gonna be made up on some of the people that haven't been paying anything at all? Like, I think Walmart.
There will be, and that's in my discussion.
Okay.
Currently, there's no markup on 3 bulk rate customers, AutoQuip, Love's Travel Stop, and Walmart. Their invoices are a direct pass-through without any markup. At previous meetings, City Council discussed a markup equivalent to the markup set for all commercial customers. So when we get into the last spreadsheet, we'll show that if we do commercial 65%, those 3 bulk customers, whatever their invoice for that month, we will add 65% and send it to them rather than it just being a direct pass-through. The state tonnage fee is $1.25 per ton. It will need to either be built into the city rate structure for each category customer or absorbed in the city's markup. March 14, 2022, Waste Connection invoice, the total state tonnage fee for residential commercial customers was $607. To try to go back and calculate some way to spread that over each customer category would be a nightmare. So when we set our rate, our markup, I'm suggesting we absorb the state fee as part of that markup. In October 1998, there was an agreement with the town of Cedar Valley. The current term, because it rolls over automatically, is through September 30th, 2022. It automatically renews unless terminated by either party giving written notice to the other party at least 60 days prior to expiration of the anniversary date. Customers receiving trash service hereunder shall pay an administrative fee of 25 cents. So since 1998, we've been doing their billing for them, and their markup has been 25 cents a month. We are proposing in the draft resolution that the clerk is directed to notify town of Cedar Valley in writing upon passage of the resolution that the 1998 agreement between the city of Guthrie and the town of Cedar Valley to provide billing services for solid waste trash pickup service is hereby terminated effective September 30th, 2020, and that will end their contract and give them the notice that they're required in the contract. And then further authorize the mayor and the city clerk to negotiate a new agreement with the town of Cedar Valley to provide a billing service based on the rate schedule that we set in the new resolution. So whatever we do, we'll have to honor that contract till October 1 of this year. And then if we cancel it, then they would have the option to get somebody else to do their billing. If they wanted to do us, then they would get the same markup as other customers. The potential 5-year renewal of the contract with Waste Connections that was proposed to us. The current 5-year contract with Waste Connections for trash service expires on September 30th, 2023, well over a year from now. In the contract language, it says the contract may be renewed for successive terms of up to 5 years, each upon the mutual agreement of both parties. Our code of ordinances excludes from the bid process contracts for service. So we don't have to go out for bids. We can negotiate with whoever we want to provide trash service to the city, because the following type of purchase contracts are expressly excluded from Article 4 of the city charter as amended, and also excluded from the personal property purchase and bid procedure herein established. Contracts for service is one of those that is exempted, so we can negotiate. We don't have to put it out for bids if we don't want to. So the next handout in your packet, Waste Connections has submitted a 5-year renewal rate proposal for the City Council's consideration for a new contract period beginning on October 1st, 2023 and expiring on September 30th, 2028. The percent of rate increase for the first year varies by customer class or category. For example, the first year, residential would go up 15.15%. Commercial 2-yard would go up 30.85%. As Brittany has explained, the way they did this rate structure, it pushed some of the burden more onto commercial and less on residential, and that's part of the reason why those percentages are different. Then the percent increase for years 2 through 5 for all categories is 8% every year. Under this format, over the 5-year term of the renewed contract, the city's cost for residential service would increase by 57%, our cost, not our customers' cost. And then other customer categories would be more than that if they started out with more of an increase in the first year. The last handout for this discussion, I took the sheet that was the proposal from Waste Connections, and in brown is the proposal from Waste Connections. So if you look on the first page in brown, Polycart, in FY '24, the first year of the new contract, the charge from Waste Connections would be $10, and then in 2028, it would be $13. The adjusted rate, if we do agree, and again, if you look at my narrative, I put if in bold yellow and put it in red because this is an if. It's subject to city council decision. You may do 50%, you may do 40%, you may do something else. But if we agree to do 65%, the blended return that we got back in 2006, that would mean in 2028, for a Polycart, it would go from to $22.46 a month would be our billing rate. And if you go down, I circled, if you go down to 3 yard with a 5 times pickup, it would go from, they would charge $398, we would charge that customer $658. So pretty significant increases. If we take these increases and then, of course, add our markup. I think some items to take into consideration when we're reviewing Waste Connections renewal proposal. Per the existing contract terms, which has been pretty standard throughout our relationship with Waste Connection, their CPI price rate adjustment has been capped at 2% annually. CPI inflation might be 7%, but they can only go up 2%.
Right.
For some years, it might be 1%, and they only go up 1%. So they have been held down by that cap, not being able to adjust each year based on what the actual inflation number was by the CPI index. So, for example, since 2005, because of our cap, they've only been able to go up just under 8%. But during that same time, from 2015, the CPI inflation rate was 17%. So if they would have been able to go up each year based on true inflation, they would have already been higher. But because of the cap in the contract, they could not do that. With recent inflation, CNG fuel is up over 50%, with MMBTU price going from $1.50 to $2 to over $6 for the last 3 months. Waste Connection states their labor cost is well up over 10% in the past 12 months.
Good.
Front load containers are up 75% since 2008, and polycarts are up almost 30%. So there's many factors in play that would explain the significant rate increase proposed by Waste Connections for first year of the contract. That makes sense because they've been held down. You look at inflation, it makes sense that they're going to have a big bump the first year to catch up. The city has been very pleased with the service provided by Waste Connections. They have quality and responsive staff. Everybody that we have dealt with in the 5 years I've been here with Waste Connections have been quality people. They've always been responsive when we've had issues or questions. So the service we've been provided has been great. Waste Connections has been a good corporate citizen in our community. They not only donate to the Kiwanis auction, they actually buy things at the auction as well. They donate some scholarships to high school students. They're very active involved in the community, so they've been good corporate citizens. With the current high inflation and unpredictable economy for the foreseeable future, it is not the most opportune time to seek bids or quotes from almost any form of service contract right now. They all would have to build in a cushion or fudge factor to hedge their bets to some degree, not knowing where inflation is going over the next 5 years. My recommendation tonight is the city has until September 20th, 2023 under the current contract. There's no reason we have to make a rush or a final decision tonight. We got time. Clearly, I desire to retain and continue our excellent working relationship with Waste Connections. However, I don't think we have to immediately accept the first renewal proposal presented by Waste Connections. I recommend no action tonight to give us some time to analyze their proposal in more detail and to have further discussions with them on any adjustment in our favor to their proposal. We may go through the process and come back with exactly what they proposed tonight, but we got time to continue to review it and visit with them to see if there's other opportunities, and that would be my recommendation.
And we're not actually losing money right now either, right?
We
Yeah.
will be until we adopt a new rate ordinance, but that has nothing to do with renewing our contract.
Right.
So that would be my recommendation relative to items 2 on the agenda.
I'm really hesitant to ask anybody to pay anything more right now with inflation and gas prices and ONG and everything else that's going up. I think it's just too much. So I agree with that, and I would make that motion when you get finished with discussion.
Well, yeah, let's have some more discussion. You know, as I see it, there's a number of things that definitely need to be fixed, but I don't know that it's Waste Connections issue. That's with those that are pass-through. Walmart, Love's, we need to fix that. That's our deal, though, that's not theirs.
Correct.
The other thing is I think we definitely need, as Brittany has identified in their proposal, that we need to look at the commercial businesses providing a bigger share, if you will, of the total expense. I mean, I think the increase needs to be on them. So that's kind of both of our issues. And then, of course, the third one is the rate increase that we're talking about, which really technically doesn't need to happen for almost another year.
Well, and I even agree with the big bump up front. I really do, because they obviously are way behind. But as far as the going forward after that, you really don't know where we're going to be at that point in time. So I mean, if the economy gets a whole lot better, you know, or a whole lot worse, we don't know which one's going to end up being the best deal for everybody. It might not be good for them at that point. So I'm hesitant to. I'm like, go ahead.
Would you again state where this shortfall revenue over the convenience center, $44,359, comes out of?
It comes out of the Public Works Authority budget.
Okay.
I don't know that I could pinpoint a line item that it comes out of, but
Well,
the funds that we generate from water, sewer, trash, all goes into the Public Works Authority, and from there are funds generated that makes up that difference.
Well, I mean, the statement of we aren't losing money, well, we are losing money.
Yes.
Correct.
We're
but
spending
what-
this
what-
past year,
That has been
44.
one of our justifications on why we make money on trash services, because it offsets the revenue that we are losing at the convenience center as
Right.
part of the explanation.
That should, in my opinion, should not be. We shouldn't be supplementing it. It should be paying for itself. It is a convenience center.
Yes.
That should pay for itself.
And that's something that we again need to revisit.
Yes, sir.
It's not, and I agree with you, Tracy, I think we need to take a hard look. At some point in time, we said, well, we'll take it out of one pocket and put it in the other, so that the charge for the convenience center is less. I don't know exactly what the rationale is, but I think we need to revisit that, as you're saying.
And bear in mind, even with the fact that we've not increased our rate to our customers since 2006,
Right.
we are still making roughly $350,000 a year. So that more than pays for the revenue shortfall at the convenience center, and that's the model we've used for a number of years, that we use the money made on the trash service to subsidize the operation of the convenience center. Now, we can change that model.
That's what I was trying to say.
Okay, yeah, I hear you, Jim. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I guess from a personal standpoint, my first comment should have been, I'm a user, and I appreciate the service.
Yeah,
Most of the
absolutely.
people that I talk to appreciate the service that we've had and that they've had. And you've mentioned that, Leroy, in your comments. I think the service that we are getting right now is very, very good, maybe even excellent. The challenge is how much are we and customers that we serve, our citizens, willing to pay for that excellence?
Well, I don't think anybody really wants to replace them. I think you guys did an awesome job. We've all said that. It's not about that, so we just need to come to something we can all
I think we just
handle.
need some more time to work with Waste Connections on their proposal to either look at some adjustments to it or become more satisfied that the proposal is bottom line what it should be.
Other questions or comments?
Good.
Jeff? Good. Well, the recommendation, and I don't know, the recommendation was made by Leroy to basically table this at this time for more discussion with the administration and Waste Connection, and to take no action at this time. And I believe, were you the one that made that motion?
I'll second that.
And a second, is there any other discussion? Submit your votes.
Ow, hit the wrong one. Sorry.
You want to start over?
Get rid of the red one.
Okay. Okay, now,
Submit your votes now. Submit your votes, folks.
all votes ran?
Let's see the votes. Unanimous approval from the councilman present to postpone, to table this item for further discussion, and that there be more dialogue happening between Waste
Staff will
Connections
continue to
and
work
administration.
with Waste Connections and review and discuss the proposal and then bring it back. Our intent is to continue utilizing Waste Connections again the next month.
All right.
On item number 3, here's a nice little spreadsheet, looks like this. I love spreadsheets. Y'all go over these.
Go back to that.
On this one, if you look in the blue, that is the rates from Waste Connection. And then the salmon color, the next one over, is the invoice from Waste Connections. And the top one in green is residential rates. So if you look at the current billing for residential, our invoice for this particular month, March 14th, was $39,361. If you look at our current billing rates, we made $61,000. Well, that matches what we said, the 57% markup that we're getting right now. If we add 21% across the board to all our customers, then you can see that would keep the markup on residential at 90%. And our revenue would go from the 61 to 74. For the current year, our cost to our customers would go from $13 to $16. If we do a 65% markup across the board for all customers, then the increase for residential, a polycard inside the city, for example, would only go from 1324 to 1406, not 1602. And our revenue would, on residential customers inside and out, would be 64,000 for that month we looked at, which is a 65% markup. Okay. If you go down to the bottom, under roll-off rates, there's a place for broker accounts in the salmon collar at the bottom, and you can see AutoQuip, Walmart, and then on the next page would be Lowe's. But again, if you look at AutoQuip, their current bill is $2,103 for March 14, 2022. Under our current scenario, we just pass that through. So we send them a bill for $2,103.94. If we do the 21% increase across the board, which is the difference between where we were in '06 and where we are now, their bill would be $2,545.70. If we do a 65% markup across the board for residential and commercial, instead of skewing it where residential pays more than of the load than commercial, their bill would be $3,471 a month. So our invoice for them would be $2,100, but our invoice to them would be $3,400. And the same scenario plays out for AutoQuip, Walmart, and so if we adopt the resolution in that format, then whatever bill we get for them from Waste Connections, there would be that markup that we set by resolution on those three customers. If we agree at 65% across the board, we would add 65%.
Okay.
On the commercial one, I was mistakenly working off of the invoice from Waste Connections, and they charge the same amount for a 2-yard container, whether it's inside the city limits or outside. So when I do the rate structures across, I've got to add in, I've got to basically double the size of the spreadsheet because I have to add in our rate for outside the city limits and inside the city limits. Even though Waste Connection charges us the same, we bill differently amount for inside versus out. I need to add those to this spreadsheet before you have a complete picture, and I have all the categories that I need to put in the exhibit on the resolution. I just realized that yesterday, and so I need to go back and add all of those out-of-town categories to the spreadsheet for it to be complete. And then we will have the information. Right now, we are proposing, based on discussions, rather than load it heavier on the residential customers at 90% and only 50% for, or less for commercial, is to do 65% across the board. So there, which means residential's already been higher than that, so the amount of their increase they will see will be less if we do that. We can do any percentage you all want, but based on looking at 2006, our markup was 67% when we looked at both residential and commercial, and that's where we come up with 65, that's where we come up with the 65%. We can add to the spreadsheet and do 50%, 40%, whatever y'all want. Once the spreadsheet's done, all I gotta do is just plug one number in and it spits the numbers out.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, you would like to present a little bit more information before we
Correct.
make a decision?
It's not finished yet. I
Right.
need to add some more categories to this spreadsheet. Don wants a bigger spreadsheet.
Well, I mean, we're clearly moving, in my mind anyway, towards correcting this disparity between commercial charges and residential charges.
Yes.
So, in my mind anyway, that's a good way to go. If we need the next piece of the puzzle, the last piece of the puzzle, if you will, that you just discovered, more information, then.
I wasn't building in the rate structure for out of town.
Okay.
It needs to be out of town.
Then, I guess the recommendation would be to take, on this item also, take no action.
Correct.
Until the completed staff work is to us at the next city council meeting.
Do we need to authorize staff to notify the Cedar Valley so they have some time, or?
We would prefer that you can go ahead and do that and we'll do it. Or we can wait until we adopt a resolution, but if I think we could make a motion tonight to notify Cedar Valley that at the end of the current contract year, which is September 30th, we are sending them a written notification, we plan to cancel that contract and authorize the city clerk and the mayor to negotiate a new contract.
I think
That
we
would
should
be
do that.
appropriate.
Is that a motion?
Yes, I'll make that motion.
Second.
If we authorize staff to send them
Okay,
notice.
we have a motion and a second to alert Cedar Valley that we, at the end of this contract term, that we are terminating that contract. We will be renegotiating or rediscussing, but we're terminating the
Won't be
existing
25 cents.
existing contract. Any discussion, questions? Submit your votes.
I'll vote Strand.
See the votes. Unanimous approval for those present to communicate with Cedar Valley that we will be discontinuing that existing contract, that we will be having more discussion, dialogue with Cedar Valley concerning a new contract between staff at both cities. And then we also are, I actually made the motion that we would take no action on item number 3, pending additional information coming at our next city council meeting.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion there? Submit your vote.
I'll vote Strand.
See the votes. Unanimous approval from those present then to take no action on item number 3, and more information coming from staff to further discussion at our next city council meeting. With that, ladies and gentlemen, our workshop is adjourned. And I'd like to call to order our Guthrie Public Works Authority meeting. Would you please stand? And with me, have our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for our prayer.
O Creator, our richest treasure, we come tonight to make decisions that will affect our city and community. In our hearts and minds, we plan our course. We pray you establish our steps. We seek your wisdom. Help us not to make decisions based only upon what we know, but act based upon your wisdom. Please guide us. We place this meeting in your hands. We place our hearts and minds in your hands so that you may direct us, that our plans may be orchestrated by you, and the people of Guthrie will be blessed by what happens here tonight. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Item number 2, public comments, community announcements, recognitions. I have a proclamation to read. As you all know, we have a little thing going on this week called 89er Celebration, and culminating in a parade on Saturday. I'd like to read a proclamation from the state of Oklahoma. Whereas Oklahoma's 89er Day celebration is an annual event commemorating Oklahoma's first land run, which opened the unassigned lands of central Oklahoma. And whereas it is appropriate for Oklahomans to commemorate the vision and resolution displayed by pioneer men and women who opened our territory to settlement on April 22nd, 1889. And whereas Oklahoma Land Run marked the beginning of one of the most dramatic and colorful periods of history in our great state. And whereas it is fitting to reflect on the brave deeds, determination, and faith that guided early settlers as they built a firm foundation for future Oklahomans. And whereas the Oklahoma legislature has declared that this historic city of Guthrie in Logan County shall be the official city of festivities for the 89er Celebration Week. And whereas events taking place throughout the week in Guthrie include parade, rodeo, carnival, as well as concerts, contests, dances, and I might add much more. Now therefore I, Governor Kevin Stitt, do hereby proclaim April 19th through the 23rd of 2022 as 89er Celebration Week in the state of Oklahoma. And I guess, do we get a hold of the...
I called them, but they...
Okay, we were going to present this to the commander of the American Legion, which is the sponsor, along with many civic organizations, of this activity, and I believe this is about the 93rd, something like that, edition of 89er Celebration. Just congratulations and thank you to all the people that make it happen, this week happen. And we'll present this to the American Legion and to the commander at a later date. Okay, item number 3 is the consent agenda. Only one item on the consent agenda is the approval of the minutes of the April 5th, 2022 Public Works Authority meeting. Entertain a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval from those present to approve the consent agenda item A. Item number 4, discussion and possible action to approve the purchase of a used 2020 Freightliner vehicle, truck, with cable roll-off hoist for containers up to 22 feet.
I can give a brief synopsis of it, and then Tenny can fill in the details if you have more questions. To simplify it, we have to haul the sludge away from the wastewater treatment plant. If we do not buy this truck and do it ourselves, it will cost us roughly $46,000 a year to pay Waste Connections to haul the sludge containers off. And then they will take it to a landfill, and we will have roughly $41,000 of landfill fees. So it would cost us about $87,000 a year to dispose of the sludge. If we buy this truck for $142,000, all we got to do is load it and drive it across the field and land applicate it to ourselves on our own field. So it won't cost us anything, and we're saving $87,000 a year, which in 2 years will more than pay for the truck we're buying.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any other discussion?
What do you think we could get you a load so your yard would keep up with your neighbor?
No, but I know some locations where we might take a look.
Submit your vote, please.
There we go. All votes are in.
Let's see the votes. Unanimous approval from those present to purchase that 2020 Freightliner. but not identify the locations where it's going to dump the
Right,
sludge.
not to Dawn anyway.
Yeah. Item number 5, discussion possible action to approve resolution 2022-18, amending fees, charges, policies for bulk water rate and water tap. That,
I could give a quick summary of this one as well if you'd like, and then Kim, this is more her area,
Okay.
she can fill in details. But our water tap fees and our bulk water rates have not been adjusted since 2013. If you look at the top on the summary, the current fees for the different taps and the proposed fees, those proposed fees are actually what it cost us for manpower, equipment, and materials to do those taps. And that's what we're proposing to go to the new rates. That's actually our cost. Under the bulk water, traditionally, the city has charged the same amount for bulk water as we do for residential rates. And we have a CPI in our residential rate structure, but this particular charge is not built into the same ordinance, so we had to manually go in and do it. Kim has added language to this resolution so that when we do the CPI index increase on the other water rates, this one will automatically increase as well.
Kim, additional comments?
He pretty much covered it.
What's the difference between quick service and short service and long service?
That's a Tenny question.
Board.
So the question is the difference between the different service taps that we have here. A 1-inch quick service tap is simply when our crews respond out and there's already a setter in place. The box is there. All we have to do is actually set the meter. It's a quick 1-inch set, 2-inch meter, quick service tap. 1-inch short service is when we have to actually, the main's on the same side of the road. We have to actually go down, tap the main. We figured in roughly about 10 feet of pipe, a corporation, tap saddle. The long services include a bore underneath the road when we have to go across the road to actually get into the main, and set a corp, tap saddle, and setter, meter box, and meter.
Are these additional, is this cost spread out over time, over on a bill?
Now, normally they come in and they pay these fees whenever they're like new construction or something like that. They'll come in and pay these fees to
Right up
Dan
front.
right up front.
Kind of like what the rural water does.
Yeah, okay. All right,
Okay.
thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions of Leroy, Kim, or Tenny? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
In a second? I'll second it.
Second, yeah, sorry.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes.
How about Strand?
See the votes. We have a vote of 5-1. The action passes approving resolution 2022, amending the fees, charges, and policies for bulk water and water tap fees. That being the last item on our agenda, I adjourn our Guthrie Public Works Authority meeting, and I call to order our City Council meeting of April 19th. Second item on the agenda is consent agenda items A and B. A is the approval of the minutes of April 5th, special City Council meeting workshop, and B is the approval of minutes of April 5th, City Council meeting. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any other discussion? Submit your votes.
How about Tran?
See the votes. Unanimous approval, those present to approve consent agenda items A and B. Item number 3, discussion possible action to confirm the mayor's nomination of the following individuals to the Guthrie Historic Preservation Commission. Dan, did you want to say anything on these? No?
I don't have anything extra unless you have questions.
You're good? A is the appointment of Aaron Rooney under the knowledge for a new term through March 31st of 2025. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
And a second. Any discussion? Submit your votes.
How about Tran?
See the votes. Unanimous approval and to appoint Aaron Rooney to the Guthrie Historic Preservation Commission term through March 31st of 2025. B is the appointment of Nathan Turner, again under knowledge for a new term, again through March 31st of 2025.
So moved.
We have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Any discussion? Submit your votes.
How about Tran?
See the votes. Unanimous approval to appoint Nathan Turner under the knowledge aspect to the Guthrie Historic Preservation Commission appointment through March 31st of 2025. C, reappointment of Adam Ropp under the ownership term to a new term through March 31st of 2025. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Is this a second term, third term?
This is his second term.
Be second full term.
Yeah, he had a partial first.
Yes, that is true.
Submit your votes, please.
How about Tran?
See the votes. Unanimous approval of Adam Ropp then to a term with the Guthrie Historic Preservation Commission through March 31st, 2025. Item number 4, discussion of possible action regarding a recruitment plan for the city manager position. Kenny, you want to talk about that? Leroy?
I think two things that would be good to decide tonight if we can. One is process. Are we going to do this internally ourselves, or are we going to use an outside firm to do the recruitment and assist with the selection process? And then secondly, time frame. If we, when do you all desire to have the next city manager on board early enough that they can work for me, or not work with me for a few months, whether that be January or February, whatever that target date is, then we will back up from there to make sure that the advertising starts on a schedule to match the target we have to recruit. And you have to assume a city manager will have to give a month to 2 months notice potentially at their current job. So all that has to be built in. So tonight, if we can determine a process, and then second, a target date of when you would like this individual to start work, then we can back up the schedule based on that target date.
I personally think it would be nice to have them to start first quarter of the calendar year, January. If he's out in April, I think that would really allow some time to get some true continuity between the outgoing and the ingoing.
We
have never had that.
Right.
It always puts us chasing our tails. And so
We
I
at
think-
least want that long, and we could probably vary it depending on the candidate. You know, if they said, I really need to go to work in December, or however it worked out, but I think we should shoot for the first of the calendar year,
So that would be a 3-month
4 month.
overlap?
If his
Yeah.
term date is the
Overlap.
end of April,
End of April.
That'd be
Yeah.
4 months.
that'd
4
be
months?
4 months.
But
I think
if
that
we
would-
get him too early, he'll learn all the bad habits, and we don't want those.
Well, I do think that having an overlap is, if we can afford to do it, is absolutely the best way to do. And I think economically, we should be able to do that without any problem. I don't know, 4 months is a lot, in my mind.
Well,
I mean,
Think
we've had
of-
a lot of expenditures, we've had a lot of planning.
Right.
We've got a lot of irons in the fire that
We don't want to start over again.
we don't. And I think that the last thing we
Absolutely.
want is that Leroy has put things into motion And then we get a new guy, and he's like, what the hell was he doing here? And we don't know. I mean, at least that gives him some opportunity.
Because there are a lot of projects
A
hanging
lot
out
of
there
projects.
that he needs to get up
Well,
to speed.
I
or she,
agree with
whoever.
that, so I'm in full agreement.
You know, if we can't afford it, Leroy can always wait a little bit for his last check, so we
No,
can
I-
pay the other guy.
Yeah,
We know where you live.
I think economically, I don't think that's an issue.
Okay.
I think,
Benefits the city in the long
yeah.
run.
He'll trade it for
And
some
James, I
slush.
agree, there's an awful lot of things that are still rolling out there, that somebody, he or she, is gonna have to pick up the ball and be able to really run with it. So, if, Tracy, what do you, are you
Well, the real
comfortable
question.
with that?
Yeah, so,
4 months?
absolutely, we need a good succession plan, but the question is, are we doing it in-house or outsourcing it? That's the question, right? We're really.
Well, there's two
Well, we have
questions.
two
Two
questions.
questions. The one we're dealing with right now is what kind
Oh,
of timeframe?
yeah, absolutely, I agree 100% the timeframe.
Jeff, what are your
I
thoughts?
agree.
Okay, so we're all 100% agreement on January target date.
Okay, all right, so that's the target point with some flexibility if it need to be, but
Yeah, if we,
at a
if we
minimum.
build in 2 months for them to give notice, and they only have to give 1 month notice,
Right.
that could change a little bit. But
Okay.
we'll back it up from January on the process to try to build a schedule that they would be able to start in January.
Okay, all right. So then, Tracy, back to your point, which
Well,
is the
no,
other issue of.
So
the
we're talking
recruitment
about
process.
overlapping income, 3 to 4 months, whatever income's gonna be presented to the incoming. So to go out, to outsource this to a group that seeks these professionals, what's the cost of that? And that's what, in a timeline, if we did it in-house, how does that affect the timeline? Does
Can
that
I-
have
can
any
I ask-
effect on that, in your schedule and how to address it?
We'll also be in a new budget year at that point too. We'll be doing budget again this fall, so we can budget for that for next year.
I'd like to kind of ask a question. Steve and Jeff have been through this before. I think that's it.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on internal or hired a headhunter?
Well, in my experience, we've done it both ways, in the 7 years that I've been involved here. To be honest with you, when we used the headhunter came and asked us for information. We ended up doing most of the homework ourselves.
Yeah, I agree.
And I wasn't convinced that it was, and it wasn't a cheap thing. I mean, it's not hugely expensive, considering the importance of the position. But it wasn't cheap either. And I'm not so sure that they did a whole lot more. I mean, they took our data and put it in a nice package, and they tapped the same type of sources that we tapped. They asked us, what kind of salary range, so we had to do the little research on that. We ended up with candidates going back and validating them or interviewing not only obviously them, but also people that they worked for. I'm just not sure that.
We're doing it all
that they-
anyway, so
Did
why?
they eliminate the crap?
Well, and James, they didn't say, and here's the ones we threw out.
Because I'm sure they did. I'm sure they would eliminate the crap.
They didn't tell us that.
But that's what we
I
hired them
don't
to do.
remember, yeah, I never remember.
I mean, that's what they're there for, is to eliminate the crap.
Well,
You're
yeah.
I mean,
I mean, they're there to attract the
There's
quality
definitely vetting
candidates
has to
that we
take place.
want.
And that's kind of my question too, is how much time does the existing staff have to do that background investigation, vetting and all that? To get down to the crapless ones? I mean, how much time is spent?
Well, we
There
would
will be
do a
a
lot
few
of the
of them.
looking through it and picking people we were interested
So the council will look through it?
Yes. that's
Right.
what we did.
I don't want to burden
yeah.
it all
The-
on.
no,
I mean,
the staff-
obviously, you know what I'm saying?
I think when you
I
get
just wanna
somebody
dump it
all
on-
the time, I don't think it can be a.
Leroy to do all the vetting and all the,
We still, you still have to look it over.
background. Well, yeah, we're the
You're
final
gonna have-
decision.
Well, you still have to look it over anyway, because they brought up, what, the last one was like 12, 15 candidates, we went through each one of them.
But are they able to bring us candidates that maybe we couldn't have attracted our own just because our previous track record?
That's a good question.
And we
No.
previously don't have a good track record.
No, I know
preference
that. We-
for city manager. I mean, that's our longest standing
Yeah.
city manager.
About 30.
And that's a good question. I have
So,
too.
I mean, how many people could they bring to us because they're able to then go to them and say, look what Guthrie's done since.
But that's in the package that they give, which they come to us and they come to us and say, you tell us
Sure.
what you've done in the last 5 or 6 years. You tell us what you think you got going for the next 5 or 6 years. So that's what I'm saying. We really put the package together. They bundled it up and put a bow on it. But they didn't know us from Adam to start out. I mean, they had to learn us, but they learned what we told them. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I
think
see
we
both
did-
sides.
We put the package, the information together, they spruced it up, you know, they polished it up.
I think if we do this internally, we've gotta have somebody on it all the time. It's gotta be a full-time job for that person. Just like the headhunter would do, like James was kind of saying, that somebody that's got the time to dedicate to it.
It's big, it's obviously.
Because we don't wanna get to the end of this and not have
Hugely
somebody.
important job.
It is an important
It's
job, and
hugely
we're all
important.
only paid $1 a year, and I would much rather that we invest in someone to actually do the work for us and do a good job for us.
And I guess my point is, I'm not sure that they do the work for us in terms of getting the information together, finding out even things as much as the salary range, but getting together.
Well, they
okay,
don't write our
what-
budget, we have
okay.
to tell them our budget.
Well, I know.
I mean, if you hire
Well-
a headhunter for anything.
But you also, we have some data of ranges of what city managers get in Oklahoma.
Okay.
And so, you know, you need to fit within those parameters too, but you're right, how much you can afford to pay. But they didn't know what had been accomplished in the last 5 years in Guthrie, nor where we were really headed. We told them, so then they put it in their package.
Leroy,
That's
what do you
just I'm
think
saying.
about
That's what I
this?
say the same thing. What do you think, Leroy?
Well, if you use an outside firm, it's more of a turnkey situation, even though they do ask you, you know, questions like, what skill sets does the next city manager need? And you provide that information. The mayor's correct. They ask you, you know, what is the primary issues that the new city manager will need to address in the next 5 years. All that information comes, but they know what questions to ask. And they put together a very attractive brochure. They will advertise the same places that we would advertise if we did ourselves. The only thing they will do is they'll send out an email to a lot of city managers. I get emails probably 3 or 4 times a week making me aware of positions. I see them all on the International City Managers Association. So if they get to a point and they don't have enough good candidates, they'll start calling me. And I've had that happen before too. But it's more of a turnkey. I think the quality of applications you get, I think that internally, while it takes maybe a little more work, but as the mayor indicated, you're doing a lot of it anyway, even with, I think you got the quality staff that we can take brochures put together by other headhunters and determine what are the skill sets you're looking for, what are the accomplishments over the last 5 to 10 years, what are some of the big, like water line replacement, what are some of the things that you're going to need to concentrate on when you come here. We can put that brochure together. We got people that can put a quality recruitment brochure together and then present it to the council members, and they can mark it up and add to or subtract. So I think very quickly we could put together the brochure, develop the schedule. I think either way works, whichever one you're all most comfortable with. If you go with a headhunter, that's less work for me. I will tell you that.
Is there?
But it's not a
way-
full-time job. These headhunters are doing 10 or 12 searches
Yeah,
at a time.
sure.
So we're not constant.
Do we have
What-
a cost estimate of what it would cost to go outside? or-
I think it's roughly depending on, there's different size firms with different reputation. You're probably and this is just a best guess because I've not done this, you're probably looking anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000.
Well, what would be wrong with doing it in-house with the staff we have that we're already paying? Put it out there and publish it and see what happens. If we don't get anybody we like or don't get any response, then we can always break the wallet open, but maybe I'm just a tightwad. I would rather, if they're gonna publish it the same places.
That sounds reasonable.
We also
we
don't
would
know what we
publish.
don't know. We don't know who we don't know. I mean, if these other emails are going out, if they know what people are looking for a transition, I mean, they may have other people in their pockets that we may not reach otherwise, that they may tip off that we wouldn't know how to tip off.
That could be.
I mean.
But they could also,
That is a good point. For example, in the past, I've interviewed for a job and didn't get that position, but the recruitment firm was impressed by my interview and my resume, and so they reached out to me and say, hey, we realize you didn't get this position, but we are doing the recruitment for these 3 positions, which we think would be a good fit. Would you apply for those?
I mean, I think we've come too far as a community to get cheap.
I don't think we're trying to, James.
I think we are.
That's not what I'm trying to do.
When he says we don't want to spend $20,000.
No, I'm not talking
No,
about,
we don't.
I'm not talking about the
Drop in the
money,
bucket.
I'm just talking about the effort.
I can't sit
We're
up
doing
here
it
and
all
go,
anyway.
I'd rather blow 20 grand, and we can blow that 20 grand and still not have a city manager, when at first we didn't go, let's run a classified ad
If
first.
we don't get one from a headhunter, how the hell do you think we'd have one if we didn't have a headhunter?
But
We'd
we
still-
might get one without a headhunter, is my point.
We don't know what's
I
gonna
still don't
happen.
think, I still think we don't know who we don't know.
I
And that's
think,
what, that's their job, that's what they do.
yeah, I think, especially with the timeline that we have, I mean, we're pretty much way ahead of the curve of most recruitment for city managers. I've had 2 inquiries already. Now, I'm not going to tell you that they were quality, but I'm just telling you that the word is already out there. The word is already out there. And once OML and the city manager organizations get on board, if somebody is looking, actively looking for a quality city manager position, they're going to find it. They're not
But
going
I
to.
don't know that our reputation has been quality.
Well, I think we put the package together to sell that.
And a headhunter can't hide it if it's out there, James.
Mm-hmm.
If it's out there, it's out there. A headhunter just shines it, that's all. If you're worried about our reputation.
I like the idea of going ahead and trying it at least, starting out, and then if it fails, we've got plenty
Right,
of time
I have no
to-
problem with it if we don't accomplish what we want,
Me too.
but I'm just, not apt to jumping up and
Well,
hiring something that we might have been able to
I
do
think
for free.
Tracy's point was really good too, in terms of how much time involvement is there gonna be. Concern for staff here in putting this information together and so forth. Leroy, you know your staff better than us. You know their talents and their skills. You know basically the packages, because you've been on both sides of these things. Are you comfortable that we can produce the product that we want to have the outcome that we want?
I think we got the staff that we can put together a very attractive recruitment brochure. The question on are we going to reach all the potential candidates, I can't address that. If we do it, of course, we will be letting the City Manager Association in Oklahoma know, and they'll post it, OML post it, we'll put it on ICMA website. We will make other people aware that my contacts. So I think we'll reach a lot. Time, we never have enough time to do everything we're going to do, to be quite honest, but we will make it work.
Much.
Jeff, comments?
No, I like his thought on it, I like his thinking on it.
Tracy, your comfort level?
No, I'm good with, considering how much time we have, taking a chance of throwing it out there, putting something together ourselves and just see what bites. Again, you said we're gonna go to the same places they go except for the ones you don't know. And so I think we ought to test the water first, see what comes.
Make that a motion.
Yeah, I motion to do it in-house for now.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion?
We've said it all.
Well, I guess we're gonna put it to a vote. Okay. Submit your votes.
All vote Strand?
See the votes. Vote of 5-1, we're going to move, at first stage anyway, to do it in-house, see what kind of outcomes we get.
First, we'll do a calendar so that we can present to you, here's our schedule, and then we will immediately start working on the recruitment brochure and get it to you all to mark up so that when we advertise, we've got an attractive package to make Guthrie look as good as we can make Guthrie look to potential candidates.
Well, Leroy thinks you Guthrie looks pretty good right now, so thanks a bunch.
Well, and we've got a lot of homework ourselves
Yeah.
to get done. I mean, this isn't just a staff deal.
And when we get, and we get in that more detail, but, you know, clearly there's going to be applicants, you just throw them away. And if you want, staff will go through those, and those that clearly have no skill sets that meet our qualifications, we can call those, so you don't have to look at every application. We can keep them and they're available to anybody. Somebody may want to see everyone, and we'll keep them and go through. But clearly, if they don't meet the minimum skill sets, there's no need for you all to look at them.
Mayor needs to see everyone, every felon, because he needs to know that we got to call through those too.
Yeah, we'll make them available, along with his loan from the wastewater.
You want me to help you?
Yep, we got to call through everyone,
I don't have a problem with it.
every felon and whatever else we get.
All right, so we got a little roadmap accomplished there. Item number 6, comments from City Council. Vice
Number
Mayor
5.
Kay.
Number 5.
I'm sorry, that's,
I have no
No,
report,
that's
so
6.
you're good.
Okay.
You didn't have anything to say anyway, did you?
I'm sorry, it is,
No report,
Leroy, go ahead.
no report.
Last time we let him do that, you know what happened.
Yeah, don't mess him up now. Don't say
You ain't
anything.
talking no more.
Okay, Leroy, you have 5 minutes.
I'm done,
You sure?
yes.
Okay, all right. Well, then, now we'll move to item number 6. Comments from City Council. Vice Mayor Case?
89ers is coming. I hope everybody gets out and enjoys it and brings everybody they know to town. So let's play it up and show Guthrie off for what it is.
Yeah, good. Councilman Long?
No comments.
Councilman Taylor?
Yeah, 89ers is here, guys. This is a chance for you to come out and watch the parade. We need rain, but we need it to hold off on Saturday and so we can get the parade in, and then if it
Just
wants to
don't get it
rain,
on
it
Saturday.
can. Thank you, staff. All of you guys did hard work tonight. I appreciate it. Thank you, Leroy.
Two of them didn't even talk. What kind of
Well,
hard
I
work did
know.
they do tonight?
But that was Dan did. He said,
Councilman Taylor and I and Leroy were at the signing of the proclamation that I read today, and Representative Mize had a picture actually and a comment. You might want to reference that?
Well, I wish I had the picture with me. I should have had him do it. He's going to work with the governor, and they're going to steal the state seal and bring it back up here to Guthrie and drop it off. And I think they may even move the Capitol back. You never know. He had a picture of
That'll be
it. The
fun.
governor was holding on to it, so you never
Now,
know.
wouldn't that be a good recruitment package?
There you go.
The governor will be here at the parade, so it'll be the first time, I think, maybe ever, the
Since I've
governor
been
and the
here.
lieutenant governor are going to be in the parade. So,
Both of them?
Both of them.
yes, and all of our state reps.
Councilman Williams?
No comment.
Councilman Channel?
One thing, I'm surprised Jim left it out. On 89ers Day, up by the junior high, there's a salon, hair shop. And then right next door to it, there's that big house mansion up on the hill type deal. there's always a cookout there. So anybody that's hungry, it's in town for the parade. Just,
Can you give us an address or a GPS?
It's BYOB, by the way.
oh, you won't miss it. It's a big blowout. But they'll never know the difference. I mean, if
I
you're
probably
hungry,
wouldn't.
they feed whoever shows up.
You're coming, right, Dan?
Yeah.
Okay.
And, oh, Dan, I am thankful you didn't have to talk tonight.
Me too.
So, we talked about the parade, but there's a lot of other things that's going on. In addition to the parade, and I just looking here, of course, the carnival, you can see the lights already right down the street here, setting up, so that'll start tomorrow. The Great Bed Race, I think they're looking for some people to ride in the beds, James. Yeah. You got
He's got to
helmet?
get down
You
to
got a
payday
crash
loan
helmet?
place first.
The Great Bed Race is going on. Of course, our high school jazz band and choir are going to be performing, I think, at the post office or maybe in the American Legion. Check the 89erday.com is the website, and it has all the latest information. That's the most important thing to check on, 89erdays.com. And it'll give you everything that you need to know. Big wheel race, the Gassers, Geezers, and Hogs. We're going to have Will Rogers here again with the U.S. Marshals. And there is a rodeo on Saturday night down at the arena.
The Longhorns.
Are you going to be in the
Longhorns are going to be
parade?
here.
Bonnie Bill.
The Langston Band is going to be here again. So, I mean, we've probably got the largest number of entries we've ever had as far as the parade is concerned. But it's more than the parade, lots of things. Make sure you go and buy your button, or you may get thrown in jail if you are caught without a button starting tomorrow, I think, Don, is that right?
Sure. Billy, I need to talk to you right now.
All right, anything else? We're adjourned, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.